Good evening, afternoon, morning, everyone around the world. Welcome to another Nerd Nation podcast. It's a great honor for me to host this one because we're talking about one of my favorite subjects of all time, which is Star Trek. I love Star Trek, everything to do with Star Trek. And we're going to be talking on a particular subject regarding Star Trek. We're going to be talking about the best first officers or the best first officer amongst the first officers in on Star Trek television. And we're going to go into depth about all of that. I have with me my usual partner in crime, cousin Cheeto. Say hello to everyone.
Howdy. My first officer was here. It's my dog Riker. As you can tell, I'm a fan. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. I'm excited to talk Trek. Trek is one of my favorite sci-fi things of all time. So I'm ready to get into it. And Riker is too.
Okay. And we have cousin Cheeto's brother, Mr. Boogeyman 2132, or we can just call him Boogeyman. Say hello, my friend.
Hello again.
Okay. So we decided to spontaneously pick a particular subject to talk about regarding Star Trek, and what we ended up choosing was who is the best first officer. By the way, that picture of Will Riker, he looks so much like Chris Hemsworth in that picture. It's unreal. But nevertheless, we're going to talk about the best first officers, and some people might not think that certain people are first officers, like actually he did become a captain, like Captain Spock, who was a first officer during his time on the Enterprise. But we're going to make him a first officer in this particular case because he's the closest thing to one when he was working alongside James T. Kirk. Okay, enough of me yabbering on. Let's talk about the first officer, probably the most popular character in Star Trek, Captain Spock, who was a first officer alongside James T. Kirk. Shall we start talking about him first? Do any of you guys like him? I'll start off with you, Boogeyman. What do you think of Spock?
You're muted.
Yeah, I know. I was just Spock's an OG. He's an original. I mean, Spock. You can't really go above and beyond Spock.
Yep, I can understand that. We've had different incarnations of Spock as well because different actors have played him. But Spock is the man. He brought logic into Star Trek, and he actually Spock is like a caricature of Leonard Nimoy, to be more precise. And what we say about wrestling is sometimes the best characters are the ones who are just an extension of yourself. And Spock was definitely an extension of Leonard Nimoy, which is why that character is so great. He obviously created the famous V sign of live long and prosper and all that bollocks. I thoroughly enjoy his character whenever he's on. I do like seeing Leonard Nimoy in other roles as well. But Spock, that's his baby. I mean, it's one of the greatest characters of all time. And when he passed, it was a very sad moment. And it's good to see Spock in so much Star Trek, not just the original show, but various other shows, other movies as well. You know, just a great character. What do you think of him, cousin Cheeto?
I mean, Spock is Spock. I'm one of those in the camp that don't really consider him a first officer. I mean, I guess he is the highest rate. Like, I don't think they ever mention him as a first officer. So, but it might not have just been a thing back then, which is okay. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I never really thought of Spock as the first officer. I more thought of him as I more thought of him as just like the chief science officer and buddy with Mr. Spock or with Mr. Kirk. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, it was, I'm not a huge fan of the original series, so I never put a ton of thought into Spock. It was always fun seeing him in the Kelvin movies. I loved a lot of the episodes in TNG that he was a part of. So, I mean, as to be consider him to be a first officer. Oh, look at that. See, I love Leonard Nimoy. And as I said, this has nothing to knock against his character. I just didn't think of him as like the first officer. That didn't really become a thing in my opinion until the Next Generation. So, because I mean, Kirk,
I agree.
Kirk put Sulu in charge on the bridge. Kirk put, he even put Scotty in charge on the bridge.
Yeah, Scotty was a lot. He was in charge a lot. You know, the guy could be in fucking engineering, but he was always up there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I'm saying I don't know if and that's back when I was younger when I saw this show. So I don't know if I exactly consider, it just might not have been a thing, but for all intents and purposes, he was Kirk's first officer, I guess.
Fair enough. By the way, I referred to him as Captain Spock, obviously, because that was a rank he did achieve. But did he ever achieve Admiral? I'm not sure.
I don't think he reached Admiral, but he was Ambassador.
Yeah, for sure.
I think his highest military rank was Captain. And then after the Enterprise was retired, I believe he accepted a position as Ambassador Spock. And then I think he did that until Next Gen times, until all that went down.
Yeah, because during the movies, he was like full-on weirdo in those films. Nevertheless, we're going to go on to the person who is not in those pictures, by the way, but he was really the first officer in Star Trek television, and that was Captain Will Decker. He was the person in charge of the Enterprise in in the motion picture, and he had to give up his captaincy to James T. Kirk, and then he ended up being basically the first officer of the Enterprise. Now, he only was in one movie, but he was the original first officer. Personally, I don't give a shit about this character, but I wanted to do service to the fact that we are talking Trek. Total throwaway character, as far as I'm concerned, very forgettable. But this is Trek. What do you guys think of Will Decker? I'll start with you, Gio.
I mean, I didn't even remember this guy until you mentioned him earlier. I mean, I knew of him, but it didn't even click to me as a first officer until you said something. So I was just kind of like, Decker. I'm like, what the hell? So I mean, I guess we should mention him due to keeping the nerd rage down for any of the Trekkies who are going to watch this. And actually, you missed William Decker. But I mean, I mean, he was technically a captain before he wasn't even really a first officer. So yeah, look there's a tiny picture of him because that's about how big his role was. It was very tiny.
You're absolutely right, Roberto. But he had to play a role. He couldn't be captain alongside Kirk. That's anarchy. So he had to be, in a way, demote himself in a position where he couldn't be the person to also be in charge. He had to be second in charge, and that's why he was first officer, I guess. Anyway, Boogeyman, what do you think? What's your take on that, Will Decker?
Never knew about him until now.
You've never seen the motion picture? Come on.
I have seen them all, but it never stood out to me about him. I never knew there was another first. I never knew there was a first officer other than Spock for original Star Trek.
Honestly, as I said, I mean, growing up, we saw the motion picture maybe once, and then we skipped it for the Wrath of Khan all the time. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah, it's a shit film. I won't doubt that. But the thing with I always find it funny that Will Decker, even though his ex-girlfriend did die. Yeah, I mean that robot version of that Indian chick with the bald head. She was not his ex-girlfriend. She just was an image of her. She was Vija, or a voice of Vija, so to speak. So he was so desperate to shag his ex-girlfriend that he was willing to shag a robotic version of her, and bonded and all that shit. And you know what the funny thing is? It would have been nice. It would really be nice if Star Trek could somehow follow on from this. Maybe a future series of Star Trek with could come back and they meet Will Decker. He's all robotic and shit, and he's got baby robots. Who fucking knows, baby Vijas? But it would be nice for them to go back to this and see how it's progressed over these years. Don't you think?
Baby Vijers?
No, but look, I'm just pulling shit out of my ass. I mean, but the point is, wouldn't it be nice that we could follow on this story and see what's happened after all these years? It would be nice, just to see what's happened. And if the actor's still around, then bring him in as well. Anyway, let's move on from Decker. We've spoken about that guy for too long. So the next person on the list, but I'm doing this obviously chronologically, would be D-Man, the person you named after your dog, arguably maybe the most smoothest of all the first officers. Definitely a proper shagger. I mean, this guy could bang anything. I mean, he does think with his crotch a lot, and that is Riker. But he's loyal to the captain, that's for sure. Like a lot of the first officers are. You know, he can be by the book when he has to. And there's two versions of him as well. So I'm not going to yabber on too much about him. I'll have my chance to speak. But Boogeyman, surely you know about Will Riker. What would you like to say about him?
Riker, even in the new Star Trek, is still one of my all-time favorite first officers. Love Spock, but as far as my personal list, Riker is at the top. Riker is Riker. There is no explaining Riker. My girlfriend don't know Star Trek at all, but yet I could talk about Riker, and she knows Riker.
Yep.
So.
Okay, well, there's two versions of Riker, as we know. Because Thomas Riker is still Will Riker, regardless of him having to change his name. So you could see what he could have been, and what he did become, and that's also a very interesting aspect of him. And the fact that the guy just bangs everything is just so cool. Love a guy like that. Cousin Cheeto, what would you like to say about him?
Listen, if there was ever a Star Trek Star Wars crossover, I want it to be like a buddy road trip comedy where it's Riker and Lando shag the universe. Come on.
Yeah.
You watch it. Yeah. You know you'd watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Appropriate, just saying.
Wouldn't be kid appropriate. No, it'd be like it'd be universe trip, and it would be, Riker and Lando just going around shagging everything. I mean, obviously they would have had to have been younger, but
I don't know. Just to go on the sorry, go on.
Just to comment on the whole shag everything. I mean, look who the captain was. Picard.
Yeah.
Same story. The dude, older dude. See him in the shows, and then young. It's like, how many partners did he have in the show? 6, 7?
Who, Riker or Picard?
Picard.
Oh yeah, Picard had like 6 or 7. Yeah.
And they were all long term. Like there was no breakup between them. Like you never heard of anything about.
Well, Beverly Crusher was probably his main squeeze, though, wasn't it?
Not
officially. That was a relationship that never really. But it was a relationship that never happened.
It was a relationship that everybody knew happened, but never was mentioned.
Look, there's still everybody talking about that Wesley Crusher. I was going to say Will Wheaton, and I'm like, you guys know who that is, but there's that Crusher, Wesley Crusher is actually Picard's son. Like, I mean, it kind of tracks. I'm just saying.
That'll be interesting, but I would hate for them to bring that out anytime soon.
Oh no, it needed to come out back in the series. It can't come out now.
I was just regarding going back to Riker. I just want to say that he ticks a lot of boxes. He's all action as well. I think it was Star Trek Generations where he had a bit of a fight on this sort of bridge sort of section of some part of the spaceship. He's fighting.
That was Nemesis.
No, Nemesis. My bad. I apologize. It does get a bit of a blur. And he also he pulls a joystick out of the fucking out of the ground like some sort of Atari 200 shit. Yeah.
That was Insurrection. That was great.
Seeing that joystick every time makes me laugh so much. I mean, Jesus Christ. Talking about bringing it to the bare bones.
The guy has got swag, and he is a Starfleet officer that everybody wanted to be like. Like, Picard is okay. Okay, boomer. Picard was the pinnacle of a Starfleet officer, but Riker was the officer that everyone wanted to be like, because he just wanted to shag everything, because he's so suave and cool, and so I don't know. He is my number one favorite. Number one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I like it too. I like Jonathan Frakes. The guy is just a very talented man as well. Great director. I think very underrated. And some of the stuff he's done. I mean, First Contact is one of the best Star Trek films, just generally. You know, but they're definitely the best of the Next Generation films, without a doubt. It's got that alien vibe, aliens vibe about it. But nevertheless, you know, like the Borg was so frightening in that film. You know, very menacing, and all the elements as well from it. And the way he directed it was fantastic. Great director, great actor, great character. And I would like to actually see more of Will Riker. Obviously, we get him in Picard, but I've always said that I would love to have seen a Star Trek show, Enterprise, where he's Captain. Because by the way, he is Captain Riker now, and it would be nice to see him, you know, being the captain of a starship. I would love to see that, but they never did that. Okay, so now we're on to DS9, and we got. I personally think Dax was the first officer, but we got a picture of Kira here. But we can talk about both of them, or who we definitely think is the first officer out of these two. Kira, by the way, was a bit of Star Trek knowledge. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, but she was married to the actor who plays Dr. Bashir on DS9. So when they were making out in one of the episodes, they were genuinely making out. It wasn't fake. She also was pregnant on the show, and they did this thing where she was like basically being some sort of surrogate host and stuff like that. So it's art imitating life. Yeah, she's one of the first officers. Dax as well. See, this is my favorite. I love Dax. She's a really interesting character because she's two personalities in one. She's the girl and she's the host.
She's like 8.
And she's a very interesting character as well. And I have to be honest, it's weird in a way because DS9 is very, very far back in my memory. And I remember more things with people like Cisco and Worf and O'Brien than I do with Kira and Dax. You know, Odo, I remember more stuff. It's unfortunate, but these are two really great female characters. But I don't remember too much from them. You know, not of any significance. I mean, they killed Kira off and they replaced her with the other Dax girl whose name I've forgotten because she was that significant.
They didn't kill Kira; they killed Jadzia.
Yeah, sorry, they killed Jadzia. My bad. My bad. Sorry.
Actually, they killed Jadzia in season 6.
Sorry, I'm getting my names mixed up because look, I do rate DS9, but that was the most series-like of all the shows before they came up with Discovery. So for me, I think some of the other, unfortunately for that show, I thought some of the male characters were far more, just had more character to them. I mean, Kira, she's a feisty, tough girl, but I just don't remember anything of any significance from her. I know she was the Bajoran go-between, and Jadzia as well. Like she just not enough for me that she offered. She was just always like the right-hand man of Cisco, and she was always talked about as the previous incarnation more than anything. I never really saw what she offered, you know. But yeah, what do you guys think of Kira and Jadzia? Who do you think is the first officer of those two? I'll start with you, Boogeyman.
So Jadzia was never a permanent first officer. There were times that she presumed the role while Kira was gone, but she was never an actual first officer. Like Cisco wanted to. If I remember correctly, it's actually in like either the first or second season. They're actually talking about it in the show that Jadzia did not want the position.
Okay.
Because I think it was Kira and Jadzia were both talking. I'm going off of memory here, and I don't remember exactly what was said, but the gist of it was that Jadzia she didn't want nothing to do with being a first officer, and that she was glad that that Kira had to be given the position.
So Jadzia just became like a science officer of sorts.
She was the science. Yeah, she was the head. Yeah. She was the Spock of the DS9 without being the first officer.
Fair enough. Okay, then we'll stick with Kira then. So what do you think of Kira, by the way, Boogeyman?
Kind of like what you said. Kira, she was always there. She was always, tough woman, especially in that era that they made the show, when, a lot of the stuff was going on, having tough women instead of just being, in a woman's role in that time where it was, the typical role.
I mean, she was like, you know, a woman who was a refugee to a degree. She was fighting in the war against the Kardashians. I mean, they obviously did the Nazis and the Jews sort of thing. I mean, it was so obvious, you know, what they were doing with that at the time. And there's nothing wrong in that because Star Wars has done it as well. But you know, you could see where they were getting their inspiration from. But you know, one thing I will give DS9 is that both their main female characters, they were tough as shit, and they weren't taking shit from anyone, and they were great characters in that aspect. So I wish I could talk more about them, but unfortunately, they didn't leave still a lasting impression. But Cheetah, what do you want to say?
I mean, DS9 is my favorite Trek, hands down. And two of the reasons why is Kira, and they're not the only reasons, but Kira and Jadzia. I'm not going to get into Ezri. But with Dax and Dax is just such a phenomenal character, and okay, take her away, please. We don't want her kind here.
I was literally about to say something that her name was Ezri because we were all trying to figure out what her name was, and it's like, oh, I just found it.
But I mean, like, Jadzia was just and to me, if it was split between like Bajoran and Starfleet, you know, personnel, Jadzia always stood to me because she had the most experience. And you're right, she was never officially the first officer, but I mean, she had the experience. Of 6 to 8 lifetimes. She had just a plethora of knowledge. She was just a very competent woman, not even a woman, a competent Starfleet officer in just everything that she did. And I mean, she just destroyed both Kira and Jadzia destroyed so many tropes of, you know, like female characters. You know, the only thing that I didn't like, and actually I like the fact that the way that Jadzia and Worf's relationship worked out, because she kind of went after him, and she's just like, you know, she took the initiative, and she, you know, she was not willing to stand down to a Klingon. You know, like, I mean, I know they say Worf is like the pushover Klingon, but at the same time, like, I mean, Jadzia's tough. I mean, there were episodes she was going with Klingons, going after the albino, which was I think he was a Klingon renegade or something like that killed someone, and Jadzia, one of her former hosts, had a blood pact with them to go and when they found him to kill him. And she did it. I mean, she went and she did it, even though technically she was absolved of that because of the change of host. And with Kira, it's just like there are so many good episodes with I mean, like the one where they're blockading the Bajoran planet that the Romulans are wanting to put warheads on. The one in the first or second season where there's the Cardassian who is claiming to be some war criminal, but he's just not, like, he's really just a Cardassian who is just remorseful about what happened to the Bajorans. But by the end of the episode, like, you know, you think Kira hates this person, and she does at the beginning, but then she becomes sympathetic to him by the end. And Kira, the character, and I mean, there's the episode where the roles are reversed, where Kira then has to ask people on a Bajoran planet to move because they're looking to do settlements or something. I don't remember what it is, but, you know, and then Kira becomes the thing she fears most. You know, it is not an oppressor, but you know what I mean, like somebody who's trying to, pretty much an oppressor, because she's forcing them to move out of that area. You know, and there's so many good episodes with Kira and Dax. I mean, just all of it. And that's why, and honestly, those two characters are two of the characters and two of the reasons why I love DS9 so much. I mean, there's so many other characters I could get into, and I don't want to because we'll go on a huge rabbit trail. But it's just like those two characters are just some of the most, in my opinion, some of the most influential in Star Trek history, based on some of the things that they did with those characters, and it actually kind of shaped some of the future of the Star Trek franchise based on some of the things they did with them and some of the things they were able to do on TV that were kind of tropes before, but then they kind of flipped them on their head. So anyway, that's my spiel about those two, because you can tell I was waiting for that.
I really want to say thank you, Roberta, for that spiel, because you brought memories back to my mind with that spiel, and I'm very grateful for that. I also want to add that, you know, as much, I do like DS9 a lot. It did, in my opinion, have the greatest Star Trek episode of all times. Trials and sorry, I keep forgetting what name.
Tribulations, yeah.
Is it Trials and Tribulations or the Troubles with Tribble? I forget which one's which.
I thought it was Trials and Tribulations. The Trouble with Tribbles was the original series.
The original, yeah. Okay. So yeah, Trials and Tribulations is without doubt the greatest episode of Star Trek ever. I mean, it's just a genius episode in how they made it at that time as well. The writing in mind, just thinking that this would work when they were putting it just to paper, and then just to make it work as it did. And you watch it now, it still looks really good, and and it opened up questions to like why these Klingons don't have ridges, and that was never answered by Worf, but he seems to know. And so many really good bits,
That's with answered in Enterprise.
Sorry,
that's answered in Enterprise, but we can keep going.
No, it is, but then you've got Discovery throwing a spanner in the works. So anyway,
spanner in the works. I see.
Real quick. So I was
you say a monkey. You say go on.
So I was looking at some pictures from Deep Space Nine, and they attempted to do another Riker. You do realize that, right? Maybe not in the first officer's position, but they attempted to do another Riker. But if you ever, once I show the picture, you'll realize he was rejected and rejected again and again and again.
Let's have a look.
What are you talking
about? My man, the Doctor.
Oh God.
the attempt to be Riker, but never made it.
No. I mean, I like Julian as, but no, him being like the SWAT. Yeah, no, that did not work.
He was attacked so badly.
They tried so bad.
I'm glad they tried to make him into the Data. Because I think Bashir was more like Data, and like Jadzia was more like Riker. Like that I seriously feel like that's what that's like.
All right, I'm going to put my take on it. Sorry, go on, Boogie.
No, you're good. I was just saying that I could see that.
Okay, I'm going to quickly put my take on it and then go on to the next guy, because in my opinion, every series needs a shagger. The original series had Kirk. Riker was in TNG, and then they bring in Worf, who in my opinion is the reluctant shagger. Now, he ended up being first officer in DS9, and he's the reluctant shagger because even on DS9, just everyone wanted to shag him, and he's like, no, go away, I don't want to shag you, I'm a warrior, and everyone just wants to fucking shag him. He's a fucking shag magnet. You know what I mean? I've never known anyone in to be so like not interested, but everyone wants to fucking shag him. He's not after it. They want him. The guy is a pussy magnet. It's unreal. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to fucking try. He just has to be Mighty Worf. Yay, and everyone wants him. And he ended up, in one particular storyline, he ended up having a fucking family with fucking Counselor Troy. And then and obviously he's got his son Adam. Is it Adam? Is his son's name?
Alex,
my bad.
Alexander Roshenko.
Yep. And people, by the way, call Worf a pushover, but he was brought up by humans. I mean, he's always going to be, and he's still a fucking badass. Let's not mess around. Worf. Remember that really good Worf episode on TNG where he was going through different time loops and different time things, and he won this trophy, but then like different times he looked at the trophy, it was like 15th place or 26th place, and he just had to get back to his original timeline. And when he did get back to his original timeline, he was the winner of that particular trophy because the guy is a fucking badass. He fights a lot. He knows how to use various weapons. Sorry, go on.
Oh, you know what he is, Zam, right? You know why he's a pussy magnet?
Yeah.
Because he's ribbed for your pleasure.
Yes, those ridges, man.
He's ribbed for your pleasure.
Look, and Captain Picard said to him after, in First Contact, after apologizing to him for calling him a coward, he said to him, "You're the bravest man I've ever known." And I would go with that. There's no one tougher than Worf. I mean, if there's anybody you want by your side, it's Worf, and that's what makes him a great first officer. First Officer Worf, what do you guys think of him? Sorry, I know I've gone on a tangent at times, and I don't mind you guys doing so too, but also try and keep him as first officer as well. So what do you guys think of him? as first officer. I'll start with you, Chio.
I mean, it's fine. I liked the addition of Worf to the to DS9 crew. I feel like it was a good balance. I felt like that there was this ingredient missing to the show up until that point, and I think Worf helped bring that ingredient, because like you have people in shows that like, okay, so in Voyager you had 7 of 9 who came in, so Kes had to leave, but I feel like with Worf coming into DS9, it was such an organic transition and just such a well done part of storytelling. It just felt so organic for him that it just worked. And I liked it. I mean, I like the fact that he was there. I felt like he completed the crew at that point. And that's really I mean, I always like Worf, but it
was good to see him and O'Brien having their chin wags. You remember when we were on the fucking Enterprise and all that shit? And I like that. He gave, he had somebody, he had a friend already there and stuff. And
it's the ultimate crossover.
But it's good to see like the transition of like a guy who's just like a security officer being in a commanding role, and I did like that. And when he was on DS9, it definitely elevated the show big time. Boogeyman, what do you think of Worf?
I mean, sadly he had such a small role as a first officer when it came, because you only saw him in the episodes that he was with the Defiant, until he was made the actual the Defiant. Although I don't think he ever reached captain, but I think he was commander or lieutenant commander or whatever. But he was the captain of.
I think maybe lieutenant commander.
But I mean, Worf overall. I mean, like my brother was saying, he's he was a good balance to Next Gen, and he was a good balance to Deep Space Nine. And I mean, I would love to see him in more stuff like Picard. I don't think he
as a captain.
He never made an appearance in Picard, right? I don't think he's not. He didn't pass. The actor didn't pass away, did he? I don't remember.
No, Michael Dorn's still around.
Yeah, I would love to see him make an appearance in Picard. I think.
Yeah, me too. I would love to see him as a captain of a starship for sure.
Either a captain. Well, towards the end of TNG or the end of Deep Space Nine, he was an ambassador between Klingons and the Starfleet.
Yeah, but
he became an ambassador. I remember that, and I remember even some of the travel episodes. He was his.
But they can just bring it. They can write him back, can't they? It's just flick of a pen, really, just to bring him back. But it would be just nice to see a Klingon being captain of a starship. That would be brilliant. That's never been done before. I want to see that.
Well, I think they hint. Well, I don't think we'll ever see it. But like I said, when it comes to Picard, I really wish they would bring him in. As a retired ambassador, but coming back like Riker did. At the end of Picard. I'm sure it's not a spoiler by now, but I'm going to say it anyway. Spoiler. Where he comes in.
I've never seen. I've only seen 2 episodes and gave up on it. That's the only. So that was the first time I've given up on Star Trek, and that was Picard. I just did not. I mean, I was looking forward to it because I thought, here we go, we're going to get now the most progressed in timeline Star Trek, which we haven't had in years because the last 2 shows have been fucking prequels. But so I was looking forward to this, but it was such a terrible show. It wasn't for me. It wasn't the Star Trek I wanted. The Star Trek I wanted at all. Sorry, mate.
It was slow in the beginning. Now, I mean, if you're not really too interested in Picard, like YouTube it, or even like if you have the ability, watch the last. It's either the last episode or the episode before the last, because just the the actual engagement scene in that, even though there wasn't really an engagement, like it puts you on the edge of your seat. And it's with Riker, and it was just amazing. So if anything, you gotta watch that part.
Riker seems to be at the final episode of a lot of shows.
I feel like that.
Okay, so all right, no problem.
I was gonna say, if you haven't watched it by now, then you may either you need to spoil yourself or go and watch it, because this show's been out forever.
Okay, look. Okay, I'll do. If I haven't seen it by the next time we talk Trek, then spoil it for me.
I mean, I'm not talking about going out of our way to spoil it for you. I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like you say you're. Do you plan on finishing it, or you're like, I don't give a.
I mean, look, I mean, theoretically, I need to watch it because I need to keep up with my Star Trek, and obviously, some lore building will be made from those episodes for sure. So I would be doing myself a disservice by not watching that shit.
I will say the first 2 episodes they were tough. They were, you know, kind of hard to watch. It does pick up though.
Okay.
It does, if you figure out the story that you're watching, it will pick up. You'll kind of start to understand where they're going with things, because like I think the first 2 episodes was them trying to put a lot of stuff to bed from like TNG and Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
That's the way
you got to understand. It's just what I'm seeing. Like I'm seeing this mystical android shit in a painting. I think, what the fuck is this bollocks? This ain't science. This is poltergeist shit. You know, like what the hell? Where they're going with this? You know, like so. Obviously, maybe things will get answered. Hopefully, in a scientific manner, which stays relevant. Because I can't stand magic in my science when it comes to something like Star Trek. It's enough. I put up with it a little bit with the original trilogy because it was trying to find its feet a little bit, and I don't really look at it as magic. I just look at it as alien powers. But it just feels a bit mystical. Some of the stuff, like the painting at the beginning, that's all I can really remember. But yes, you know what, Boogeyman, I'll give it a fucking shot. I'll definitely give it a shot. I promise you guys that.
Yeah, if you're judging it off of that, like the mystical aspect of stuff, you definitely need to watch more, because yes, a lot of it does get explained throughout the series.
I'm sure the science comes into it. Okay, so we're gonna go on to Chakotay.
Chocolate.
Now this guy is theoretically a traitor because he was part of the resistance against the Federation, and I forget the name of that fucking organization. The Marquis fucking, you know, vagrant. You know, him and Troy, not Troy, sorry, Balana, what's the fucking surname?
Torres,
yeah. I'm losing my train of thought here, but anyway, he ended up, you know, lucky for him, first officer's dead. He takes the fucking role, yeah, because he's on Voyager and they're fucking in the middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden, he just comes across as a guy who felt like he was a Starfleet officer his whole fucking life. You know, that's my issue with Chakotay to a degree. You knew he was no nonsense, and you couldn't fuck with him. At the same time, he did feel like a very decorated Starfleet officer, and not a guy who was part of the Marquis. And that was always my issue. The guy ended up banging 7 of 9, so he's got something going for him.
For like 5 minutes.
Well, mate, he was there, and that's good enough for me. You know what I mean? He definitely fucking connected the bolts. Let's just say that, yeah. You know, so what a lucky bastard. You know, remember she's a robot.
She's a Borg. She's cybernetic.
Yeah, I'm being very loose with my lingo here. Yeah, okay. I'm being very loose with my lingo, as I was saying. You know, I mean, yeah, you can say cyborg and all that shit, but you know what I mean. So, nevertheless, he had some interesting moments. He was. I felt like it's really hard to say. Like I said, I didn't think I didn't. My problem with him is that we didn't see enough of the Marquis side, the rebellious side of him. Yeah, he did have his disagreements with Janeway, but a lot of the times he was by her side. You know, he had her back a lot of the times, and this Marquis character was just non-existent as far as I was concerned, and that's my only issue with him. Good character, you know, definitely a pillar of the show without a doubt, and I enjoyed a lot of the scenes he was in, and they never overdid him being a Native American. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the tattoo on his head. I'm not sure if that's a common thing for Native Americans. Maybe you guys can fill me in. I think they were trying to play on that a little bit sometimes, but they never overdid it on Voyager. I mean, there was times where it was majority of the episodes it was totally irrelevant, you know. So, but yeah, a decent character. But that Marquis, I'm going to go back to that again. I wanted more of that. and we never got any of that, as far as I'm concerned. What do you guys think of Chakotay? I'll start with you, Boogeyman.
I mean, Voyager was probably one of my more watched stuff, but it was never really. Chakotay just never really stood out for me. Like, he was a very generic. He was a very. I can't even think of really what to say about him because it's just like he was there. That's all I can think of. He was just there.
Yeah. Cheeto.
Sorry. I would definitely say that he is the best first officer in the sense of the job description first officer. Riker was great. Riker is my favorite first officer. Somehow this treacherous rebel became the North Star of all first officers, because you're right. He was with Janeway all the way. There was barely any strife between him and her here and there. But I mean, he was always doing the away teams, and Janeway was back on the ship. I mean, it really wasn't. I mean, he was kind of like, that's why he was pretty boring as a first officer, because he was a great first officer in the job description sense. So
even Torres became like a regular person on the ship. You never even thought that she was part of the Marquis. She ended up getting hitched to Tom and having their baby and shit. I mean, like, where are these rebellious personalities in their character that would make them upset with how Starfleet are doing their shit? Conflict.
I mean, there was a bit of that in the first season.
Not enough.
But there was a bit of that in the first season, but like, yeah, right around the second season, it all just kind of flattened out. And it was just like, yeah, like the whole Maquis strife thing ended after the season 1 finale, which was based around Starfleet versus Maquis personnel, like, yeah.
I think what makes Voyager's going on Voyager just generally so popular is it is basically like Enterprise, like TNG and like the original series. It is an extension of that. Obviously, you put them in a different scenario, but but overall it's the same shit. Them just discovering new people, new worlds, new civilizations and shit. Obviously, they're trying to get home, and that is the overall storyline of this series. But it did follow those same beats, which is why it's such a popular show, in my opinion. Regarding Chakotay, I've got no more to say about him. Don't dislike the character. I just wish they made him more rebellious, like he's supposed to be. Anyway, shall we move on from him? Okay, now we're going back in time. And we're going to be going on to, in my opinion, until Picard came along. But like I said, I'll make my judgment after I've seen the first season. But in my opinion, what I think was one of the worst ever shows in Star Trek was Enterprise. I did watch all of it, but the going back in time was not the right move, in my opinion, for a show. But we can talk about that another day. Let's just talk about the first officer. In my opinion, the most desirable, loveliest. I mean, nothing going against. Sorry, I don't want to take anything against Kira and Dax. They're absolutely gorgeous women as well. But T'Pol, wow. I mean, I would stare at her all fucking day and try not to. You know what I mean? Because she's that fucking attractive. And the actress who plays her, does a really good job of playing a stone cold Vulcan. Now, she is the closest thing we have to a first officer for Jonathan Archer on Enterprise. I can't really think of any other character who would fit that mold. So and she's technically the science officer, but she's also the Vulcan go-between, the same way Kira was for the Bajorans. And I think that's why she was first officer in that particular sense. She it's weird because she was just really supposed to be some sort of liaison person who just I think she ended up like working with the humans, and she never really tried to portray it. She ended up having a relationship with I forget his fucking name now, with
Trip?
the engineer. Trip, yeah. I keep thinking Hitch. Yeah, Trip. and all of that, because everyone in every show needs to have a relationship at some particular point, and they did as well, following that rule. But I don't think she did anything of real significance, really. I mean, she was kind of cloak and dagger as a first officer, which was interesting to a degree, because she was definitely relaying shit back to the Vulcans and keeping stuff away from the humans. It was interesting in that particular aspect. But overall, I think the only episode I really enjoyed of her was when they came across an old version of her, and she's been around humans for so long that she started acting like a human, not like a Vulcan. And that was probably my favorite episode of her. And that wasn't even the modern day version of her. It was an old version of her. But other than that, not really much at all. I mean, the Pon Farr episode was great. That was really great. Somebody just needed to fuck her and she'd be fine, but everyone couldn't. They were too worried they were going to get a disease. Take a chance, man. Take a chance. She needs help. Fuck the bitch. You know what I mean? But no, sorry, pardon my French. I hope I'm not offending anyone. Being a bit masculine how I'm talking there. But nevertheless, oh my God. I mean, I would probably have to, guys, I'm going to take one for the team here, man. I'm just going to have to do it. But nevertheless, what do you guys, I'm going on a tangent here. I'm going on one. Boogeyman, to Paul. What do you think?
I'm sorry. She was nothing but a sex appeal scheme. That's all she was. That when I think Star Trek, it's all she was in Star Trek. I'm sitting here looking at pictures, and I mean, there is not a single picture of her that doesn't scream that. Like, yeah, she was a science officer. They were probably trying to give a sexy version of Spock. That's all it was.
They done the 7 of 9 thing again, which was, it might, sometimes this is what pisses me off about Star Trek sometimes, because like, yeah, they got beautiful people in there, but come on, you're taking the piss now. You know what I mean? These bodysuits and stuff like that. I mean, do I have to constantly see this gorgeous person like that and try to think differently when I see her? You know what I mean, can't you just dress up like a regular person? Like everyone else, you have to fucking wear the most tightest shit all the fucking time, walking around people. It's just ridiculous how they portray people on Star Trek.
And
at times.
I've got a picture that literally proves that perfectly. Like, any scene, like any big scene that she's in, you get stuff like that. Like this, I mean, if it's not obvious that she is the center of the camera for a reason.
Yeah.
She is the center for the reason.
I mean, she's just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, that episode where there were the evil versions of themselves in the mirror universe, and they're all like wearing like, outfits with no midriff and stuff like that. I mean, just Jesus Christ.
Here, I got it for you. It was actually the next image. Like there is nothing else. Everything.
She is so fine. She is so beautiful, man. She is so gorgeous, man. I mean, I think look. The funny thing is, though, I mean, she could be maybe good. I mean, she's stunningly beautiful, and she's got the Angelina Jolie look about her, as well. And I think she could be wearing anything, and she would be very attractive regardless. But they making it the way they did was unnecessarily distracting, and they could have just made her like a regular person in the sense of just making her wear outfits which are less revealing. Why would anybody be any different? I hope I'm not sounding too chauvinistic saying all of this stuff. I'm trying to be on the women's side on these issues. If I'm not, let me know and correct me. But I want to be corrected on these issues. I don't want to be a fucking old fossil. I'm not sure if I've asked you, Cheetah, what do you think of the poll?
Me?
Yeah.
I like T'Pol. I mean, not because of the sex appeal. I always thought that she was a good counterbalance to Archer, and it was really nice in the series to see how she, like, they played the long game to show how she kind of more turned, like when she was living with humans for so long, that the way she started to see it more the humans way. And even towards the end of the series, you saw that she was kind of like, what we are doing to these humans are wrong. And I mean, it's not like it's like a genocidal wrong. It's just like, it's just morally wrong. Like the way they were holding them back for so many years. And the Vulcans genuinely thought they were protecting the humans by holding them back. But in all actuality, the Vulcans should have let the humans walk out and bump their head on a coffee table a couple times before they realized, yeah, we probably don't need to be walking or running before we learn how to walk. So I mean, it's that's how I always saw T'Pol, was she was like the counterbalance to Archer that eventually did come around, and I always thought she was a decent first officer. She did her job. So I don't know. That was
I just think maybe because I just didn't like Enterprise in that era of Star Trek, which I didn't like anything about it from the moment the music begins. It's been a long time. Oh, fuck off! Just fuck off, man.
my second favorite Trek is Enterprise.
Oh god. Oh, of course it would be for you, mate. Of course.
Don't
I
get
like quality television. Yeah.
don't get them started on the alternate universe in Enterprise.
Oh god, just everything about that. I really wanted it to be something I liked, and every time I saw Scott Bakula as well, I saw Sam Beckett. He was pretty much Sam Beckett on the Enterprise. You know,
I saw Quantum Leap, and I never thought that.
Man, mate. Jonathan Archer and Sam Beckett are the same fucking person. They are exactly in character the same person. There is no difference between the two of them. Okay. They're both fucking geniuses. They're both fucking smart, intelligent guys who can take care of themselves. And they're very giving. They look out for people. I mean, these are all the elements of both these characters. But nevertheless, shit show. T'Pol, not very memorable character, other than she's fucking gorgeous. Let's move on to a character that has grown on me significantly, especially in season 2. We're talking Michael Burnham of Discovery. Now, this is a really interesting character. Now, just to go on a little tangent here, the original Star Trek, obviously Kirk and McCoy and Spock were the main characters of that particular show. And the captains usually are the slight leads of every show, but the other characters do play their part too, and they all fill in. I mean, like most of the TNG's characters are all very popular, and they've all had their own episodes dedicated to them as well. But in Discovery, the lead isn't the captain; the lead is the first officer, and it's Michael Burnham, which is a kind of a unique way of putting a perspective on things. She's pretty much the focus of the show. Obviously, there are other characters, and they have their sort of moments too, but a lot of the show is really based around her. It's a different way of, and obviously, it's not like a single episode format show like Star Trek previously was. This is a series format now. We're going with Discovery as well, and so that's why a lot of the focus is on Michael Burnham. Now, in the first season, she was creating a character to a degree. 1 minute she's first officer, then she's in jail, then she's first officer, and then all this shit's happening. Everything's going all over the fucking place. But I think in the second season, she kind of got her footing, and she grew on me. She really did. She was more than just this sturdy, emotionless character. They gave her character. They made her, more interactive with people and trying to get along with people. She wasn't so cold, and I liked the direction they took with her in season 2, especially her interactions with Pike. And I didn't like the fact that she had a fucking brother Spock. That's the most stupidest thing ever. But other than that, I do like this character. I like her a lot. I want to see more of her. Didn't like the way season 2 ended, but nevertheless, she's somebody who's grown on me. This probably won't be the same for everyone else. But Cousin Cheetah, what do you think of Michael Burnham?
I mean, I absolutely despise this character. She is by far one of the worst Star Trek characters I have ever and the actress is fine. I think it's the writing. I think it's the writing of Burnham. I think it was very interesting for them to turn her to a traitor in the beginning. I was interested at that point, but as the season went on, I cared about everybody else on that ship. I cared about Mud more than I cared about her character. I'm sorry. Michael Burnham is a black hole that Trek just goes to die in. And I don't mind Discovery. I'm okay with the show Discovery. But I feel like any storyline that surrounds this character just disappears and just no payoff. And it's just not even that good. I am more interested in the character surrounding her than her ever. You know what, and I'll even go as far as to say with her character, she does the exact opposite that Kira and Jadzia did in DS9. Because all it is just tropes. All she I mean, there's nothing subverted with her. There's barely any character development with her. She always thinks she's right, and half the time she's not. That's my thoughts on Michael Burnham. And as a first officer, she defied her captain's orders and became a traitor and was treasonous. Okay, well, have her join the Maquis and maybe she'll learn a thing or two about being a good first officer. Just saying. Chakotay love.
As I said, the first season didn't do her many favors for me. It was the second season that made me grow on her. And if it wasn't for Lorca in the first season, who I'm still so thoroughly upset that he's not a genuine captain, because I love to see a captain like that, you know, a very different captain to all the other captains we've had. He's the most ruthless of all the captains we've had in Star Trek, and the fact that he was never a part of our Earth in the first place and they killed him off made me very, very unhappy. But I'm happy with Pike, you know, and I think that one of the best things to happen to Michael Burnham. But anyway, Boogeyman, what would you like to say?
I can't disagree with my brother when it comes to Burn. I'm kind of in the same boat, like what he said. Thinking about it now, like I was more interested in the other character developments than hers. I mean, yes, she had some interesting stuff in there, but then it's like what really threw me off is like it's like okay, then you have her falling in love with the Klingon dude.
The Klingon dude who was a human but not a human, and
Klingon that turned into a human. It's now a human that's a Klingon, or the spirit of.
I forget what now.
It's kind of the same thing with like Byrne. Like those two characters are like it's one to the next, and then back to this, and then far right field, and then back to. And it's like, okay, so we get into the black hole, we kind of start to get out of it, and then no, it just sucks her right back in, and you're just kind of like, so what's the redhead doing today?
Dude, I would ship Tilly 1,000,000 times as a character, as first officer over Michael.
Not even and see, she never became a first officer again, did she?
I think it was implied that she was.
No,
they might have made her first officer at one point.
Yeah, but you kind of see her. You always see her role. She's always second to the captain, whoever the captain is, but she's never in charge. But she's always playing that supporting role, and it's like she feels very first officer-y in everything she does on the shows.
Yeah, but she's a terrible first officer.
Fair enough.
Hold on.
If she was the first officer, she would be terrible because she doesn't follow orders. She doesn't have. She kind of does her own thing and expects everyone to go along with it without any kind of rhyme or reason. And I mean, of course, she's the main antagonist of the show, so of course she's going to be right a lot of the times. But it's like, I mean, how many people died under her watch?
A lot.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd have to go back and count, but there were just so many. Yeah, there were just so many things about her and her character that I did not even like. Hey, let's talk about this one.
So
hold on. I'll get to Suri in a second. I just want to say regarding Michael Burnham, I mean, I have more of a problem with the shows themselves than the character. I mean, it is a bit weird that we got like a show which is so centric on one particular character for Star Trek. It's never really been done like that. Obviously, with the original trilogy, it was mainly Kirk focused.
I was about to say, yeah, we haven't watched the original series then.
Yeah, I guess. But what we've had since, you know, the formula has changed, where where the wealth is spread out amongst a decent member of the cast. But this one is really about her, and they do actually do some of the tropes of the original series by recognizing that there are other people on the ship, and they might talk now and again, and you'll see them for loads of episodes. But that's all they are, just people they'll talk to now and again, you know. And Sulu was that, you know, Chekhov was that, you know. Those are people you see but not do much, you know, and then they end up becoming, you know, bigger characters in the long run. And I'm hoping that some of these people, like that black girl and that alien chick who ended up dying and stuff like that, you know, you got a little bit more of them as it progressed, but there were still just people always in the background. And I like that about Discovery. But other than that, I think both shows, I'm putting up with it because it's Star Trek. And season 2 was definitely better, and certain characters made it better. But Discovery itself, it's so far still a pile of bollocks. I hope it gets better.
Okay, so
But we're gonna go on to Suru. Go on then, Boogeyman. You're done to talk about him.
Just to kind of like come back to what I was talking about. It's like I don't think she ever regained her first, second in command or first officer title after she was called a traitor. He was always the first officer. Yeah, they went back to her for, a lot of advice and this and that and how she would do it, but he was always the first officer from the moment she committed treason. She was never an official member of Starfleet again after that.
Didn't Suru actually become captain at one point?
Yes,
he did, didn't he?
He did.
And so wasn't she then? Then she became first officer to him.
No, never retained her again. She never retained her Starfleet role, or she was never a member of Starfleet again.
Fair enough.
Called a traitor. She was what they call it.
I still
an advisor or whatever.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely, and I'm not denying that. But because she was initially a first officer, and she pretty much, emboldens that role on the series, that's why I still talk about her in that particular aspect. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and but she never,
Yeah.
I still think the show should pull away from her. I think your brother can agree. I think the show could pick up if they kind of pull away from her and start maybe forming more around the ship and the other cast members. And
Focus
stuff.
on Tilly.
Yeah, I agree.
I want more Tilly. She's a fun character.
No, I mean she could still be like the sort of like the captain of the show, where she's slightly the lead compared to everyone else. But yeah, you're definitely right. They need to have episodes focused on other characters, and they've done that. Like with the engineer, who was having the spores, putting them in shit like that. I mean, there was a lot of focus on that, and obviously he lost his partner. But then I really hate the fact that they got his partner back from the Nether Realm. I mean, that was really poor. That was really poor how they done that. I mean, I respected them for killing off the Doctor so early, but to bring him back was a poor move. But I did like his interactions with the Klingon, the guy who killed him. That was interesting, though. I give him that. But anyway, we're going on a tangent here. Suru, he was. I like the actor who plays him, and I like the character of Suru. I like what he offers on the show. He's one of my favorite aliens on the show. He's had a lot of evolution for just 2 seasons, which is one of the best things about this particular character. You've seen a lot of development from him, from being somebody who's frightened all the time to being extremely self-confident and brave as anything. And then you find out why, because his species gets eaten a lot and stuff. But he's a very capable first officer. There was a moment in one of the episodes where he's just walking in the corridor and his hands are swaying. I mean, he really gave depth to how these characters move and stuff like that. And an excellent first officer as well. He's the Spock of the show, in my opinion. Would you say?
Mm-hmm.
And and sometimes, but at the same time, I don't like pigeonholing people in those things. Obviously, Data was the Spock in TNG, but sometimes when we pigeonhole these people, I think it does them a disservice. But yeah, he's definitely that cool, calm, collective character of the show. Let's just say that. That the cool hands Luke character.
I
cold as ice.
agree with you on that. I think that the Data type character would be the engineer, like struggling.
Data.
Like the Data of that.
Data's definitely Spock, man. What are you on about?
No, the Spock of Discovery, I think, is the engineer guy, the guy with the spores in him. I think
him.
I always get Spock vibes from him rather than Saru.
I would say both. I would honestly say it's a mixture of both.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
No, he was a bit eccentric, if anything. I mean,
rebellious.
That engine. Yeah, he was a bit more like Tom Paris, maybe. The engineer.
Yeah, that I would say that's actually a really good example. He was he had logic and everything else, but he didn't really follow it. As far, except for I can't remember his name from Discovery.
I don't remember his name.
Sully, is it Sully? Sully, whatever.
I don't know.
Bottom row of my picture.
Oh, you're talking about Saru. I thought you were talking about the
Saru, yeah,
Saru.
yeah. Like Saru, I mean, has always been, diagnosed everything.
Well, and he's a science officer, so I mean, it makes sense. Isn't he a science officer?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he was the science
Or
officer.
the
It's funny in a way because like like for instance, like I would look at Jadzia Dax as the Spock of DS9, but she's nothing like Spock. But at the same time, she's very much like Spock, and so yeah, I hate pigeonholing people, but yeah, in this particular case, that's the only way I can look at it. But nowadays, these shows all have it. Like when you have like a superhero show, you've got your tech guy, your guy in the chair, and all this shit. Maybe a sidekick. You've got all these sort of roles that need to be filled. In Star Trek as well, you need a doctor, you need a fucking engineer, you need a pilot, you need a leader. All these roles need to be fucking filled, and they'll, it's no, but they just try to make the characters different. But unfortunately, I think sometimes the problem with Star Trek is that all these characters have to be efficient, or they don't, and I think it would be good if we had a few more Reginald Barclays and stuff like that in Star Trek, because even Tilly now, I mean, she was nervous, but she's still fucking excellent at her job. She's not stupid. She just lacks she just lacks a bit of confidence. But you could already tell she's like Harry Kim. She's the female version of Harry Kim. I mean, they're all fucking pigeonholing these motherfuckers.
According to the writing, and they even talk about it in the show, she is high spectrum autistic, I think is what it's called, or high active autistic.
Who, Silly? Or
Yeah.
Tilly?
Tilly, yeah.
Really?
She is. Yeah, they actually talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, she was not.
Really?
I mean, she was born with it, and she can't. I think it's like they couldn't fix it while she was, because normally they fix a lot of those things while they're in utero. But
Yeah,
but they couldn't do that with her for some reason. I don't remember why they said.
They didn't catch it. They didn't know. They didn't catch it in time or whatever.
Yeah.
Before she was born, and then they realized.
Yeah, but she nailed her mirror universe when she was pretending to be her mirror universe version. She nailed that. I remember that. I mean, but like I'm saying, they're all efficient. It would be nice to have some, in Star Trek, people who are clumsy fuckers. People, and they are main characters. Very inefficient. Stupid people. People who, yeah. But,
I'm sorry, she is.
Yeah. But that'll be nice. But nevertheless, let's just get back on track. So I'm not sure if I've missed anybody. Have I missed anybody?
No, so not in a first officer official capacity, but I think we can all agree. The new Star Trek movies, okay? He's not a first officer, he never was, but it's just my special shout out because it's so low, but still one of my favorite supporting.
Oh, this geezer.
Who?
Kenzer.
This kid.
Oh,
from the new.
This guy who looks like a human phlegm. a phlegm that's come alive. Something you cough out your mouth.
Are we gonna talk about the new animated series at all, or no?
I think we should wait for maybe some trailers and stuff, and then talk about it then.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's coming out in August, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. For sure. I'm not sure if anybody knows that there is an animated show called Lower Decks, and that's the sort of stuff I'm really interested in. Because it's just taking it. This is this is clever for far as I'm concerned, because not everyone is involved in on the starship are like the main guys. Sometimes it's just regular little Joes, and it would be interesting to be focused on them. But are there any Starfleet first officers from other starships that you can remember that maybe stick out a little bit?
Not really. Not that stick out. I was trying to look up a list of first officers, but I mean, I was trying to remember who Janeway's first officer was.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Before he died.
Yeah.
He was in it 20 minutes, and that was it.
And there's also they came across another Starfleet ship which was lost in the Delta Quadrant as well, with them, and the captain came to his senses, but the first officer went mad, and he was using these aliens to fuel their ship so they could time jump. Remember? That was on Voyager. And that first officer, he ended up
we
going
forgot
rogue.
about number one. Number one, Pike's first officer.
Oh yeah, she kind of stuck out a little bit. She was kind of
Pike's first officer.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
from the Enterprise on Discovery.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah. That's Mystique.
Yes.
Yes, it's Mystique. Yeah. Sorry, I totally forgot about her, man. No impression at all, none, because I've forgotten about her. I can't even remember other than the fact that she's fucking Mystique. I can't even remember her. You jogged my memory on her.
I mean, that's it. I don't have much beyond that,
But you do remember that episode of Voyager I was talking about, where they came across another Starfleet ship lost in the Delta Quadrant with them, and the captain was initially using these aliens to fuel their ship, and then Voyager was telling him, "Look, you can't be doing this. This is ethically wrong." And he came to his senses, but the first officer still wanted to do it. I'm not sure if you remember.
No, it was the captain was still doing it.
No, he came to his senses eventually. It was the first officer who ended up continuing it. Yeah. I think they all died.
I've seen that part of Voyager.
Because some of the crew members of that ship ended up on Voyager. But I'm not sure. I think the captain died along with the first officer at the end. Yeah, there was no retribution. Because even though he came to his senses, there was no retribution for him. He had to, they had to kill him off.
Yeah, I think
he just done two. Yeah.
I think 4 of their crew members, of the surviving crew members, were left on Voyager because they integrated into the crew, and they had a couple different scenes throughout the show, but they never really, stood out after that.
Guys, we really have not talked about the most important commander and first officer of them all, Commander Martin Madden, who took Will Riker's place on the Enterprise E.
I have no idea who the fuck you're talking about.
At the end of Nemesis, it's the guy who took over for Riker. What shoes to fill?
He became first officer on the Enterprise. So was he first officer to Picard?
Yeah, at the end of Nemesis, when Riker went to captain his own ship, the guy to replace him was Martin Madden.
Yes, I don't remember that at all. And I've watched it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's nothing else about him. I figured we forgot about him. The other one that I saw on this list here was, and here's an interesting one. Eventually, Commander Demora Sulu became the first officer of the USS Enterprise B.
Okay, well, that particular Enterprise went for a lot of shit. I mean, that Enterprise killed Kirk. So that's a terrible Enterprise. But yeah, she took over.
That Enterprise.
I hate the shape of it. It was horrible.
The Excelsior class? Yeah. Are you kidding me? I love the Excelsior.
No, I can't stand it.
Yeah, we can get into that.
The interior reminded me of like those 80s station wagons. I couldn't stand it, man. You know what I mean? But yeah. Okay, I think we've kind of spoken about everything and anything regarding the first officers. Is there anything more you guys like to say, like to add?
So the animated, because like I didn't hear about it until today. Like when I was talking to my father earlier about it, I didn't even know there was a new one. Is this seriously what this is going to look like? Is this what they're trying to portray it as?
Yeah, it's going to be. It's done by the writers of Rick and Morty. It's going to be a comedy series, and those are the commanding officers. Those aren't the main characters.
I'm just talking the style, like.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be.
So I mean, it's like,
and this is canon. This is canon as well, yeah. This has to be canon.
That I haven't heard, but it might be.
That
Look, main
the cat
characters are
alien is just not
really
working for me. By the way, the cat alien is not working for me at all.
Oh.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
well, that's also part of the animated series from Star Trek. You know, the Star Trek the animated series. So you can if you don't
I
think that's
vaguely remember that.
happy with a bunch. I didn't like the animated series, and I'm okay with never talking about it again. But it's still canon technically, for some reason.
Yeah, well, you know, there's so many loopholes and stuff. I remember we spoke about it, like the Warp 10, and like in the last episode of Next Generation, I remember Captain Riker taking the Enterprise to Warp 13, yet they were breaking the Warp 10 sound barrier on Voyager, stuff like that. Pisses me off. Seeing Tuvok as a human, as a Vulcan, pisses me off. You know what I mean? Even though a lot of actors have played various aliens as well as humans, you know, at least when they're in makeup, yeah, they look a lot different. But just having pointy ears doesn't make you look that different. You know, so stuff like that pisses me off. There's loads of loopholes galore. But you know, it's understandable at the same time because it's really hard to keep all the shit together. But anyway, I've pretty much said what I had to say about the first officers. If you guys got any more to say, this is your chance. Other than that, I'm going to be wrapping up the show.
Perhaps today is a good day to talk Trek.
Yes.
Every day.
A great line by the way, that line came from that line from Worf. It's a good day to die. That started off in DS9 or was it in TNG?
No, I think it was TNG.
Okay, fair enough.
I think so.
Love that line. That line is so Worf.
All right.
Sorry, Boogeyman. What are you going to say?
I said it was TNG when that started.
Cool, no problem. All right then, guys. Well, we pretty much said what we had to say. Please come back for our next show. We're going to be kind of hopefully maybe talking about Lower Decks, and if not, then we'll definitely have another subject of Trek for you to indulge in. So thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Boogeyman and Cousin Cheetah say goodbye. I'm saying goodbye.